Welcome everyone to the Chris Perish podcast. This is episode 28. My name is Chris Perish. First off, I want to give a big thanks to Turnbuckle Studios, where you can watch them all through the week, starting off with Mondays with Raw Patrol as they survey the wrestling scene every Monday at about 8:05. 8 o'clock, 8:05 Eastern Time with the Monday Night Raw. And then again on Tuesdays with Turnbuckle Talk at 8:05, specifically 8:05 p.m. Eastern, with co-hosts Chris Best and Carl Carafell. We also have the Boar's Nest. We also have Friday Night Gaming with Chris Best. We also have PlayStation Showcase, as you'll see later, with a new little video. Also want to give a shout out to our affiliates over at rogueenergy.com, where you can go and get a stocked up catalog of energy products, clean, healthy energy products over at rogueenergy.com. But just make sure that you want to save yourself a little bit. How about a 10% savings? That's right, at the shopping cart. Make sure you're using the promo code PERISH, PERISH, to get that 10%. We have a great episode tonight. Great episode today, sorry. But first off, I want to give a shout out to all the fathers on a happy Father's Day. I tried to get my son on here, but he's sleeping. So that's not working out. But yeah, a lot to talk about. Yesterday we had a spectacle over in Glasgow, Scotland with the WWE with Clash at the Castle. And let's just get right to it. A lot of people not happy with the way it ended, because once again, CM Punk interjects himself into the main event, costing Drew McIntyre a chance at the World Heavyweight Championship. And a lot of people were not happy. Wade Barrett specifically not happy with how that folded, then not happy with Triple H's comments in the post-conference. Let's kind of like deep dive into this a little bit. Now, it's arguable that CM Punk, Drew McIntyre, hottest feud in the WWE landscape, kind of going on this whole summer. So it looks pretty likely that they are going to want to have that as a matchup for SummerSlam. So knowing that you have Gunther challenging the winner of this at SummerSlam for that World Heavyweight Championship, it doesn't make a lot of sense to interject him and into the Drew McIntyre CM Punk thing. Not to mention, you're kind of doing a little bit of a disservice to Damian Priest, because you don't want to just have him wait the better part of a year with the Money in the Bank, have him cash in at WrestleMania, only just mere months drop that championship. Now, I understand wanting to elevate Drew McIntyre because he is somebody that, let's face it, he will be a world champion again, probably sooner than later. In fact, I have him as my early men's 2025 Royal Rumble winner. And people might say, but he's already won one. Yeah, but guess what? Just like in 2020 when he was white hot, he is getting closer and closer and closer. And I will not be shocked if the CM Punk feud helps him transition back into a babyface character. Therefore, he will get his main event spot again next year at WrestleMania 41, where I do predict he will win the World Heavyweight or the Undisputed WWE Championship at WrestleMania. That is my early prediction. But getting back to Clash at the Castle, one of the things I think I enjoyed about this main event is the fact that we got the integration of the two matches. Now, don't get me wrong. I understand the people who do not like the fact that CM Punk showed up and we didn't get a clear-cut win. But that doesn't make Damian Priest a believable heel if he's not finding those escapes out of a situation. Because now Drew McIntyre can flat out say he got cheated out. Damian Priest did not beat him as much as CM Punk screwed him. So I think when you kind of factor in all those things, yeah, you're going to see a few different situations kind of rise up on Raw. Yeah, Drew McIntyre is going to be pissed as he should be. Did CM Punk have an actual... Was he really there to do a job? No. Should he have been there? Probably not. So yeah, Drew McIntyre is going to be upset. Damian Priest is going to want to look past Drew McIntyre now, and then you can start building for him and Gunther at SummerSlam. But I do believe that we will see one more time Drew McIntyre versus Damian Priest, perhaps at Money in the Bank. And it'd be very fitting that Damian Priest is now the champion 1 year later after winning Money in the Bank and is going to have that match. And I think there will be an absolute to this match. And I think that might be a stipulation. And if you're asking me, Hell in a Cell between McIntyre and Damian Priest might make sense. Keep everyone out and just have them do it. We have Chris Best, our good old friend over from Turnbuckles News and also from the CBRS Entertainment, coming in, says, my throat is shut, but I am here. Now, let's not take that out of context. He was over at the CWE from Sault Ste. Marie last night, featuring D'Lo Brown as him and Carl Carafel were doing the commentating duties last night. So that is why his throat is scratched. So nothing else, people. Don't get twisted. No. Keep your minds clean, please. But Chris, very happy that you're here. Thank you for joining. Talking a little bit Clash at the Castle and just kind of talking a little bit about where I think the plan is going with Drew, Damian, Gunther, Punk. And that's kind of what we have to look at. CM Punk did state in the post-conference that he plans on being medically cleared as of Monday, therefore announcing on Friday in Chicago. Yes, he did state he's a Raw guy, but apparently if WWE or wrestling in general is in Chicago, CM Punk can do whatever he wants. And let's face it, if you're advertising CM Punk in Chicago, even if it's on a SmackDown, you know people are going to attend. People are going to watch. CM Punk in Chicago is just a guaranteed sellout. But yeah, no, that's exactly kind of the time, I think, and kind of the trajectory we have. Damian Priest against Gunther at SummerSlam with CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre. And then you can kind of, after that, find out where you go. I do think you're going to go maybe CM Punk versus Priest and then Gunther versus McIntyre at some point. I do think that makes some sense post SummerSlam. To begin off that match, we had the I Quit Undisputed World Heavyweight Championship match between the American Nightmare, the Undisputed WWE Champion Cody Rhodes versus AJ Styles. And a lot of people may not have... I've seen in other shows where it was said that they didn't like the beginning of this match where they went to the outside right away. I'm like, well, it's a stipulation match. It wasn't a wrestling match. Your job is to not only beat up your opponent, but just not physically, but mentally as well, as it was stated by Corey Graves in announcing. And I thought they came out with an aggression that you needed to start off the match. They set the tone very well for the show. Did they go outside? Of course. But guess what? Stakes are raised. It's an I Quit. You know, they had the wrestling classic. Now it's time to fight. You know, you don't bring all this emotion into this feud only to start with a headlock and doing some fancy, holds. No, you want to see punches. You want to see some action. You want to see some physicality, some brutal chaos. And that's exactly what they gave you here. And I thought this match was actually really good. And there's a lot of back and forth. I think for me personally, the only slip up was, and it wasn't so much a slip up to where I hated what they were doing, because you did see AJ Styles get frustrated for not being able to put Cody away, as that was the theme throughout. Cody was asked multiple times, What do you say? Do you quit? He said no. He was not going to quit. I think that was pretty obvious. And I think if there's one thing that kind of took away from this match, it was the obvious. And that was the fact that Cody Rhodes was not going to lose a championship. And I think that is something that I think kind of took away. But at the same time, it's AJ Styles versus Cody Rhodes. I don't think a lot of people were going to be upset if Cody won, as long as he got a good match. And that's what, the guarantee was. You got a good match. So the thing I didn't like was just the execution of AJ Styles getting frustrated and then almost going over to Cody's mom and threatening her. Now, I thought that was a very weak attempt to do it. I would have liked a little bit of more bullying out of AJ to the point where it got Mama Rhodes a little bit shook. We'll get to that later. But to me, just Mama Rhodes slapping AJ just really didn't... I didn't understand the rationale to that, because at that point, she slaps AJ. Now it's kind of over, or it felt like it was over. But it just... And the reason why it's like after the match, AJ... Okay, we'll get to the final here. Kind of to put it all kind of in the same... We saw some handcuffs, which I loved. I love the spot that AJ goes out, gets a bag, and everybody thinks it's tax. And he flat out says, I know what you're all thinking, but I got something better. And it was great because he dumps it out, handcuffs, boom, out. I thought AJ did a mistake here. I thought when he put the handcuffs on Cody, he didn't take away the key. Now we see why that was important later, because Cody was able to get out of the situation by when AJ had Cody set up for the phenomenal forearm. Cody threw a chair at AJ. Now, why this was such a monumental turnaround was because earlier in the match, they had positioned a table out onto the outside. And not only did AJ get hit in the head with his chair, but resulted him from going into the table as well. That created this opportunity for Cody to get the key to start getting the handcuffs off. And when he got the handcuffs off, that's when it really turned around. And then he then was able to really turn the tides of the match, put the handcuffs on AJ, and really get AJ into a position of vulnerability here, to the point where he has him set up in the corner. He had brought the steel steps in. And at this point, you knew Cody wasn't giving up. You knew he was a man possessed. He has the steps, and he was about to squash AJ's face like a bug. And before anything, AJ says, I quit. So he doesn't get squashed like said bug. And this was kind of a finish where I was like, it was abrupt, a little too abrupt for me. However, it was fine because I enjoyed their match. The reason why I said earlier I didn't like the Mama Rhodes stuff was because I felt when AJ was trying to like bully her or, go as like he was going to attack her, Mama Rhodes slapped him. So it was over. Cody Rhodes after this looks at his mom, and the whole idea was that she was looking a little disheveled from the altercation, and then gave Cody the nod to hit him. And then Cody then hits AJ with the steps, squashes him like the bug, only to put the steps in the ring, grab the title, as if he was staking his flag on the top of the mountain, as if he was the guy, which he is. He's the undisputed WWE champion. The reason why this kind of fell flat for me personally was because I didn't think AJ did enough to Cody's mom to get her into that position of being disheveled. Now, if you took away the slap and you had Cody like maybe throw a drink in her face, spit in her, something, to the point where AJ just looked like a total asshole, then you see Cody kind of look over, oh my God, you did that? And now the mom's like, do it, do it, do it. Then I can understand it a little bit more. But after Cody's mom slaps AJ, it kind of ended it for me. So it just felt a little flat for me. And that's just my personal opinion. But all in all, I thought they had a great match. I thought they really set the tone. I thought the crowd was awesome. I thought the graphic person was a little bit hammered because when Cody came into the ring, they had the graphic for the women's tag champions. And instead of a name, they just said talent name, which I kind of laugh for. By the way, if you were to have Ricochet do one match and that's what you do, I would find that funny. But that's a whole different conversation. We also saw the women's tag team championships defended, since we're talking about the women's tag team champions, where it was Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair versus the Unholy Alliance and Alba Fire and Isla Dawn versus Zoe Stark and Shayna Baszler. And I didn't think this was a bad triple threat match, but it was definitely choppy at times. And I thought the choppiness at times created a clutter in this match. And it felt like everyone was doing a little too much in this match. And there wasn't one specific person that was able just to collect the vibe of this match and bring it back. And that's why I think like it really shows you how important people like Bayley are when it comes specifically to the women's division, of how good she is at collecting that vibe. You saw kind of how organized and structured that Royal Rumble match went, and a lot had to do with the fact that Bayley was in there for the duration of that. And it just shows you how amazing she is in just being that ring general in a match. I felt we didn't have that here, and it allowed this match to kind of just open up and kind of go every different way. And because of that, I think a lot of people tried a little too hard to do things. I think if you replay this match and you kind of structured it a little bit better, I think you would have had a way better match. I think all 6 women here worked extremely hard. And I think they did so much in this match, and I just felt that as good as this match ended up being and becoming, I still believe that if you replay this, they would hit a home run. And it's just like, when you know that they can, hit you that home run and all you got was maybe a single or a double. Now, I don't want to take away that single or double. It's not bad. It's good. But it's not what you're thinking it could have been. And I think that's kind of what it was. I didn't hate the match. I just thought, in my eyes, I thought they could have done a little, they just could have done better. And I think they would do better if given a redo. But at the end, Bianca Belair gets pinned by Isla Dawn, 1, 2, 3, new women's tag team champions in the Unholy Alliance. The Scottish duo win gold in front of their hometown. And you were thinking, second match, okay, is this going to be a theme? Surely, right? Yeah, it was not. Because we also had Piper Niven challenge Bayley for the women's championship in a great match. I thought Chelsea Green was hilarious. And best, I know you're waiting for. We'll get to it. She did get ejected. She got her hand stomped by Bayley. The referee did not like how she was getting up on the apron. She was pointing, she was touching, she was poking at Charles Robinson. He had enough. He tossed out the one, the only Chelsea Green. We're going to get to it, Chris. Don't worry. As this match progressed, we saw somebody who looked very similar to Chelsea Green, but donning a Rey Mysterio mask, coming back out. So, yeah, it was just a great little performance there by Chelsea Green. But at the end of the day, the match between Piper Niven and Bayley deserves its own conversation because these two girls worked extremely hard. You could tell they have chemistry there. There was something there between them. And despite the fact that the Scottish crowd loved chanting for Bayley, they weren't hating on Piper Niven. They weren't dislike Piper Niven. In fact, when this match was over, yes, Bayley gets the 1-2-3, and it was just from a crucifix pin. There was a nod of respect between Piper Niven and Bayley, and I think that went such a long way and such a great little thing that they got, because when you had that, you also allowed the crowd to understand how special Piper Niven as a performer was. And I think that was very real. That was very good. Bayley, who's on the outside, Piper Niven in the ring. Also, shout out to Bayley for giving Piper Niven that moment in the spotlight to showcase on her. That's how you make somebody good in a loss. So, aspiring wrestlers, professional wrestlers, when you understand what your job is, and you know, okay, well, how do I look good in a loss? Watch Piper Niven in this match, because Piper Niven benefited, even though she lost the match, did not claim the championship, lost in front of her home crowd, lost while giving onus to a local competitor. She just looked like she belonged. And I think that everyone always says, why doesn't WWE do something with this talent? Sometimes they need that breakout performance. And I think this was Piper Niven's. So yeah, Piper Niven could be somebody to watch out for Money in the Bank on July 6th. And then lastly, we had the Intercontinental Championship match between Chad Gable and Sami Zayn. And this match, if you guys didn't know, it was going to be a classic. It was going to be it was going to be hole for hole. This was going to be your wrestling match of the night. And I think they did just that. Yes, they have the ongoing stories with Chad Gable, Maxine Dupree, Otis, Sami Zayn, trying to talk to them that they don't need to take the stuff. Yes, Azira Zawa was not there. So obviously we had a lot of interaction with Chad Gable and the Alpha Academy here, to the point where Chad Gable catches Sami Zayn in an ankle lock over the guardrail onto the outside. Yeah, you heard me right. They do a little spot where they're on the outside, and Sami likes to go jump on the guardrail, do a moonsault onto his opponent. But when he jumped on the guardrail, Gable caught his leg, brought him down to the point where Sami Zayn was kind of looped over this guardrail, grabs his leg, has the ankle lock. Now, they're on the outside. The referee is counting to 10. But Sami Zayn fights all the way back on into the kind of the flooring, only to do the roll reverse. But that led Chad Gable to not only relinquish the hold, but to roll forward. Now, why that was such an intriguing part of this match was because when he rolled over, he ended up connecting to Maxine's injured ankle. And this caught the eyes of Otis, who's already kind of hit. All he sees is Maxine hurt, and he sees Gable right there. So now he's conflicted yet again. Do I hit Gable? Do I hit Sami? But ultimately, he does the right thing. He does the man thing. He goes, and he cares for Maxine. He then picks her up. He then walks out, and they abandon Chad Gable, who then takes a haluva kick and loses the match. Chad Gable loses another attempt at the Intercontinental Championship, and Sami Zayn retains his title. And kind of leaves you to wondering what's next, not just for Sami Zayn, but for Chad Gable as well. Because when you look at kind of the outskirts, you have to think Bronson Reed is probably next for Sami Zayn and that Intercontinental Championship. That would be my guess. Now, another guy that I think could very well be right there in the making, Braun Breaker. And we know that Breaker just defeated Ilya Dragunov last week on Monday, and then he went out and injured Ricochet, which wrote him off storylines. But what I think is intriguing in all of this is now we're looking at what could be next for Braun Breaker. We have an Intercontinental Champion who basically closed the book on his feud, which just seems like it could make sense. Braun Breaker versus Sami Zayn, Money in the Bank Intercontinental Championship. Sign me up. Because this now can allow Chad Gable to go into the Money in the Bank. But I also, hear me out, if you don't go Bronson Reed in this scenario, maybe you guys knew something else. What about Ilya Dragunov versus Chad Gable, people? What about that as your next? No. Unless you're doing something specific with Otis, but I think Otis prevents Gable from the Money in the Bank. That would be my guess on where this is going. We have not had anything conclusive about Otis and Maxine and Tozawa with the Alpha Academy yet, but I do think at some point we see Otis preventing Gable and doing something. I also think we're also going to see the inclusion of not just the Creed brothers, but Ivy Nile alongside Chad Gable to reform a new version, or maybe either a new version of the American Academy or the Alpha Academy, or maybe we see just something else. But yeah, no, I think both the Creeds and Ivy Nile are there. We've seen in multiple promos in the background, Gable has been seen talking to not only Ivy Nile, but also the Creed brothers. And I think that just is going to happen quickly. Now, if you have them going over or up against Otis, we're now wondering, okay, who is Otis, Tozawa, and Maxine going to bring in? That could be very intriguing to me. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm going. So yeah. Let me know in the comments what you guys thought of Clash at the Castle, because overall I thought it was a pretty good PLE. Now I understand why people are upset with, oh, why didn't Drew win? Why didn't Piper win? Or, but I think you guys got to look at the bigger picture here. We're on the road to SummerSlam. They already know what they want to do at SummerSlam, with CM Punk most likely being confirmed to be ready to go. You want to do him versus Drew McIntyre, and you're not doing that for a championship. It doesn't need the championship. Not to mention Gunther is going for that title. You're not going to involve him into that. Why force something when you already have something else there? And I think Gunther versus Priest is very intriguing. Very intriguing. And obviously CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre is going to be absolutely amazing. So, yeah. Maybe not the best way of how you do it, but at the same time, how many times did Roman Reigns get help to keep his championship? And a lot of people are just like, oh, Roman cheated again. But then months later, you look back and you're like, well, that was all part of the big story. That was all part of something bigger. People, let's keep an open mind here. So yeah, no, and you heard me talk about Ricochet and Chad Gable earlier, and they've been in the news the last few weeks. So has Natalya and Becky Lynch. Why? Because contract statuses are a hot topic. It's going to be something to always talk about now. It seems like every other week we're hearing about somebody's contract. And yeah, Chad Gable's contract was reportedly up about a week ago. And you're wondering, okay, what's his status? He confirmed on the Gorilla position that he has re-signed with WWE. So that ends all doubt about Chad Gable. We had word last week on Monday that the rumor was that he re-signed. But Chad Gable, in fact, confirmed himself that yes, he has. And it has a lot to do with the fact that what Triple H told him about what he plans on doing, a lot of that has come to fruition. He has seen a lot of the things that were promised, and he was very tentative about hearing that initially because he heard it before and it didn't really happen. But now that it has happened, he has seen that there is a change, a different direction. So that allowed him to resign comfortably and happy. Now, as per Ricochet, the rumor is that he gave his notice to WWE that he was not going to re-sign when his contract expires, which I've heard is in mid-July. Now, nothing has been outright confirmed on that, but due to Ricochet losing the Speed Championship to Andrade, due to Ricochet being quote-unquote written off WWE television on Monday, it only looks like this is true. Now, is it? We will find out. Because, again, there is nothing confirming that this is legit. It's just speculation at this point. But based on actions of late, yeah, Ricochet looks like he is on his way out. Now, let's go with that. If he was to leave the WWE, it is hilarious how many people first say, well, does that mean Samantha Irvin's going? No. Samantha Irvin is not going anywhere. So people, be rest assured, she's there to stay. But then it's okay, where does he go? And the obvious answer is AEW because of how outspoken Will Ospreay has been about how he feels WWE has been using Ricochet. And he's very critical of that process. A lot of people are saying TNA. And I'm just going to say this. Where do I rather see Ricochet going? If that's the question people are asking me. Wherever he's happy. Because I'm on it. I watch as much as I can, but I'm loyal to watching WWE. I don't always watch AEW. I don't always watch TNA. I do, though. I have. I will support both. I was at Dynamite when it came in town, and I'm going to SmackDown when it's in town. If TNA ever came to town, I'd go to that too. I don't have any hatred for any promotion, but my fear is if Ricochet went to AEW, he would get 2 to 3, maybe 4, quote-unquote, 5-star classic matches, dream matches, but no real storylines. I think they would just force a match with Will Ospreay that would not live up to what people thought of what they've done before. And I don't know if that's, I don't know what to think about that. As a fan of the performer, that's not what I would like to see. But at the same time, it is what it is. Again, if he's happy, who am I to judge? Now, if this is a work, and this is just smoke and mirrors, they're doing this well. And I'd be very curious. I'd be very curious to see him over at the crossover with TNA and NXT. That would be intriguing. And then as for Becky Lynch and Natalya, Becky Lynch has been on a extended break. She was expected to take that after WrestleMania, but with the injury to Rhea Ripley, she was asked to come back to help kind of with Liv Morgan, put her over, and that's what she did. That just also happened to be the final days of her contract, so it just lined up that way. I don't think this is something to read into. Becky Lynch is just taking time away. She has a daughter, she has a book, she has a husband who also is taking time off to heal some injuries. So they're getting quality family time. Can you really hate the people that, when that is something that falls in their lap, they're taking full advantage of it? I don't blame them at all. So, yeah. She eventually will be back. I'm thinking she'll be back either SummerSlam or even Royal Rumble, because I don't think they need to rush back. I think Rhea Ripley is going to be a big thing that you're going to roll forward. And then I think you have Charlotte over on SmackDown. If Alexa Bliss and Carmella come back, you have those two. Save a big pop for the Rumble. And well, why not Becky Lynch? I mean, we're 6 months, 6.5 months away, 7 months. So, it all depends on how long of a break Becky wants. But I think more realistically, you're looking at SummerSlam. But I'd like to see something be saved for the Rumble. Not going to lie. But yeah, then I think with Natalya, I think a lot has to do with just numbers at this point. I think we know what we're going to get out of Natalya, and I think we all know what Natalya expects out of WWE. I think this is all up to Natalya and what she wants to do with the next 5 to 10 years of her career. I do think she wants to be in WWE. I do think she is going to be used to help kind of guide up the new generation of women's talent, and she's been doing that in NXT. And I think there's a real strong possibility that she not only resigns, but is somewhat of a person of interest in the NXTNA crossover. And that's where I want to go next. I want to talk about this NXTNA crossover because at Against All Odds, we saw Tatum Paxley answer the open challenge to Jordynne Grace. The first time a WWE superstar appeared in a match on TNA. Now, we've seen Christian Cage go in the trade with Ric Flair. But, this was the first time in this, especially in this kind of crossover, that we've seen WWE onto TNA. We've seen Jordynne Grace come on. We've seen Ash by Elegance come on. But we haven't seen anybody kind of go over there. Now we have. So now it's a full crossover because it has been both sides. I like the fact that it's only been the women used, and I think that's smart because I think you can go one of two ways. I've always said, okay, well, which one had the better women's division? Is it TNA or is it NXT? I mean, they're two of the stronger divisions, right? Especially with depth. So why not use that as a forefront in this crossover? I think it's amazing. I think it's great. And I think it's going to be a really healthy thing for both companies. I don't think it's over. I would like to see Roxanne Perez challenge Jordan Grace for her Knockouts Championship. I want to see more out of this. And then does this carry over to the men's? Do we get some men going over from WWE to TNA and vice versa? I would bet that on this episode of NXT with the 25 man over the top rope battle royal to determine Trick Williams' #1 contender, we're going to see, I know it's all but confirmed that we're going to see at least one member of the TNA roster. I'm curious to see if we could see more. So Cody Rhodes did say that when he announced it, that Trick Williams may not know all these guys because they're going to be from different locker rooms. Now, that could be Raw, SmackDown, NXT, TNA, maybe Pro Wrestling, Noah. As we've been seeing a little bit of some crossovers. We know Io Sky is doing a crossover match, which I have no idea about that one because I did not write it down. All I did write down as of yesterday, late last night, AJ Styles is now confirmed to face off Naomichi Marufuji on July 13th on Pro Wrestling Noah's Grand Ship. So AJ Styles, you know what's next for AJ Styles? He's going to Pro Wrestling Noah. He's going to do a big match over there. So yeah, this is going to be very intriguing. He is somebody that I think a lot of people would wonder, okay, will he appear on TNA and part of this crossover? I think it's likely, but yeah, July 13th, Grand Ship, Marufuji versus Styles, Pro Wrestling Noah. So that's going to be a show that, you know, I think a lot of people are now going to tune into because AJ Styles is there. We know AJ Styles has had a past with Japanese wrestling as he was an IWGP heavyweight champion when he was part of the Boyle Club. Chris Best is hammering over Joe Hendry in the Battle Royal with that comment right there. Yeah. Who knows? I do think Matt Hardy has teased multiple times on his X account that he's going to be a part of that. We know Moose has openly admitted that he wants to be a part of this crossover. I would love to. I'm very intrigued if somebody like an Eric Young would do this. I'm intrigued on if a Frankie Kazarian would do it. I mean, maybe a Hammerstone? I don't know. It'll be very intriguing. Joe Hendry, to a lot of people's display, did not appear at the Clash at the Castle. When you kind of really factored in that he was in Chicago on Friday for Against All Out, and then they also had TV tapings as well, and it's about a 10-hour flight. Oh, that'd be a very hard commute for Joe Hendry. Plus, I don't. You know what honestly would he have done? I mean, people can fantasy book all they want, but honestly, did it make sense and would it make sense to their product? Chris Best also would like to see Hammerstone in the match. But yeah, I mean, I think this is kind of where, you know, as fans, you can fantasy book as much as you want about this. But let's just say fantasy booking is all well and good, but I'm going to trust what they're doing right now because it's keeping me intrigued. I don't know what I can expect. but right now I'm very happy with what I get. So just keep it coming and surprise me, because I'm kind of liking this. Speaking of surprising, told you guys that we had a little bit of something new here. It is no surprise that, I, Chris Perish, the host of the Chris Perish podcast, is in a working affiliation program with Turnbuckle Studios, Turnbuckle Affiliation Program, the TAP. But what you guys didn't know is that with Turnbuckle Studios comes a plethora of shows. And the shows that you could see throughout the week, well, we have a little video for that. So check this out. And that's what you can see throughout kind of the week, with everyone kind of affiliated with Turnbuckle Studios, and alongside with myself, with Chris Best, Bubba Duke, OMD, Carl Carafell. So yeah, if by chance you are somebody that wants to be a part of Turnbuckle Affiliation Program, give Carl Carafell and Turnbuckle Studios a shout out, because that is something that they are looking at right now. So yeah, just do it. There's the link right there. Go check it out. Just do it. Why waste? All right. Carl coming in saying, "What an amazing video! Thank you. I bootlegged it myself." No, I'm just kidding. That music though kind of does remind me of the theme to like one of earlier JD McDonough's themes. By the way, I don't know why. It's not it. It's a completely copyright free thing. So YouTube, chill. Just chill, okay? We're fine. Then Chris Best saying, we got a few inquiries last night about Turnbuckle Studios. That's awesome. That's good to hear. So people, do it up. You can be one of those few too. One of the other things when we're talking about fantasy booking, we've been trying to fantasy book all of this, all we want, and that is this why it's 6. What's everything leading to? What is going on? Who is a part of it? All we know is that the latest QR codes that we saw this past week were countdowns, and this countdown ends to the beginning of the broadcast of tomorrow's Monday Night Raw. Does this mean we're going to see who's behind all these videos? All these cryptic videos, all these glitch video, like, are we going to see who the members are, or does this lead us to the next part of the injury? Who's to say? I don't know. I know a lot of the expected people in this are obviously Uncle Howdy, Bo Dallas. If he goes by another name, I'm sure we'll find out. We know Joe Gacy is being rumored. Dexter Loomis is being rumored. Nikki Cross is being rumored. So, yeah, it's Eric Rowan's being rumored. So who's to say? Who's to say what we could see? All we know is that tomorrow's episode of Monday Night Raw looks to start off with an absolute bang. So make sure you're checking out the Raw Patrol tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern, because you do not want to miss the reaction of everyone there. So yeah, and basically that is all I have for wrestling content this week, because let's face it, Clash at the Castle, when WWE does a PLE, that pretty much takes over the week, right? I mean, everything led up to it. So yeah, we have one more comment. Chris Best coming in saying, would it be disappointing if it turns out that none of the rumored stars are in it, or would it be a surprise? I think, honestly, at this point, I think we don't know what to expect. And I think, too, whether or not you find it disappointing or not, that's really all on you and the expectation of how you built it within your own self. Because I think at this point, we're just curious, I think a lot of people are just curious to, where this is going to lead to. Also, the last time we all got these QR codes and all these little things, it was to bring back the late Bray Wyatt, and it was just him. So maybe, just maybe, this isn't one to unveil everyone. Maybe this is just Uncle Howdy. Maybe it's just one person. Maybe it's one person, and then over time we'll see more. Because here's something I'll ask. Whoever the person is, if there's a person that's going to show up, if it's one, what do they do right away? If it's a group, what do they do right away? What impact, what direction does this take you? That is my question, because it's one thing to find out. It's another thing to ask what's next. So as much as we want to see the end, as much as we want to see who's behind it, that's just the beginning to what we are going to expect. Chris Vast told Tom Collihue that you do believe that needs to be a slow build to revealing who's in it. I think it just needs to be a proper build and just do it well. And I think as long as the people respond to it, yeah, just take your time. But at the same point, nobody is going to question if it's not a slow build, but if it's done with intrigue. But given the history of how long these QR codes are taking, given how long everything has been in the works, I just don't see people rushing at this point. You haven't done it yet. Why start now? Right? So, also going to give people an update. In the last 2 weeks, we've had a guy who I kind of came to meet named Jack Lucene. He is somebody that I am contemplating bringing back more on a frequent basis. So please let me know in the comments, in the comments of the videos, especially if by chance you watch the Chris Perish podcast on Spotify. Leave me some comments in Spotify to let me know if you like Jack Lucene and if you want him back. We do talk a little bit more about football. We kind of nerd out about that. Could very well have our own show, maybe. Who knows? See what goes on. It's an idea I've been throwing around. I haven't even told him about it. I've just kind of put it out there. But yeah, we do talk a lot about football, especially fantasy football, as we're big proponents of. Um, so yeah, I don't have a lot of football stuff to talk about. There's not been a lot of newsworthy. If people were by chance wondering, hey, you're a big Saints fan, anything important happening about the Saints? Yeah, Alvin Kamara left practice because of rumored contract negotiations. So he left their mandatory practice early because that. But I don't think anything huge will happen. Nothing has been really said about it since. So I don't think it's much worry there. Yeah, it's just more, training camp, seeing who stands out. Apparently, the spot of who eventually will take over in the quarterback position once Derek Carr is moved on. It's heating up because both Jake Haener and Spencer Rattler are doing great. So that battle for the backup is a great thing to see because eventually that could be the battle to the starter. You want to see people challenge people to be better because that just means, when they do take the field and when they do play, they're at their very best. And that's what I want to see. I know the Saints are both high on both quarterbacks, but right now Derek Carr is the guy. And it's going to be very interesting the next couple of years to see kind of what they do with him being behind the snaps. Because let's face it, right now, both Jake Haener and Spencer Rattler, they're not ready to be starting day quarterbacks. But, patience. Everything is virtue. But yeah, in kind of this kind of day here, I am going to wrap up a little bit early simply because it is Father's Day. This is my first Father's Day. And by the way, I'm just happy that my Edmonton Oilers are still playing hockey. That's insane. So right now, 1-for-1 for my favorite hockey team playing hockey on Father's Day. That's pretty cool. But yeah, I'm going to take some time to spend with my son, my wife. I also have to replace the latch in my trunk. So that's something I got to do. So everyone, I just want to take this time to say thank you. I am going to play a couple videos, though. The next video is what I normally used for my outro. But this is going to be where you can find me on the socials. And then there is going to be a secondary video. So check this out. And thank you. I'll see everyone tomorrow for the Raw Patrol. And then I'll see everybody next week with episode 29 of the Chris Perish podcast. Thank you. Happy Father's Day. And go Saints. I wanna pull the string.